Hey everyone, Ashley Mailloux and Gino Buccola here with the Daily Racing Form. We're going to take a look at race number 7 this Saturday out at the Great Race Place, Santa Anita's Grade 3 Honeymoon for fillies and mares, a mile and an eighth on the turf course. And Gino, we look at the slate here. It's a field of 7 set to go. When we look at the morning line here, it's kind of wide open, and I felt that way on paper. You see Faith Understood at 5-2, a couple of runners at 7-2, 3-1, and 4-1. Certainly the horse is going to take respect or kind of post 3 through 7 in this event.
Yeah, any one of those 5 really wouldn't shock me in here. The 2 towards the inside, they just need to improve a little bit based on what they've done, but not a lot. Their numbers and figures, they're not way off this group, so it's a pretty competitive group from top to bottom.
Yeah, and the mile and eighth distance, I think, will be key here in this turf event. As we look at the time form pace projections here, you can see the 4 Sea Dancer looks to be part of that early pace scenario. And I think the big thing is if you look at her distance races, she typically likes to be a bit closer to it. But I also think Shiloh's Mistress, we saw last time out at the mile and an eighth journey, wanted to be more forward, draws the outside in here, excuse me. But I'm curious to see what the 3 Faith Understood will do, because I do feel like this horse, at least on paper, especially in those last 2, appears to be one of the most forward runners. I mean, you kind of can factor in the times on that, but I have a feeling they're going to want to go with her.
Yeah, and she's actually cross-entered for a race at Churchill Downs, and you and I are both recording this a couple days early, so not exactly positive what the plans will be for her. The reason why you mentioned that is because you probably do want to upgrade the other speed horses a little bit if she's not in here, because I agree with you. I think they're going to want to be forwardly placed. I think Timeform US has the right 3 horses up front, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Faith Understood, if she's in this race, the one trying to hold her position a little bit more down towards the inside.
So we'll dive in here with the number 1, Pink Whitney. This one out of the Doug O'Neill barn. They've tried some different things with her in her career. And we're actually going to look at her most recent effort where she got back onto the turf. It was at the mile distance in that starter optional claiming event where she was not entered for the tag. And I thought she did everything right. She just gets denied here in those final stages to be second in here by a neck. She just needed a little bit more, and now she has to stretch back out to a mile and an eighth.
Yeah, she's been fine in like some of her more competitive efforts. The problem is those efforts are just against a lot softer. So maiden 50 claimers, the optional 50s, like this is a pretty sizable step up. When you're looking at the speed figures though, it doesn't seem like that big of a step up. So maybe the margin from where she has been racing to where she'll be racing now isn't that much. But when you're just kind of looking at the quality of some of these horses, I do feel like Pink Whitney will probably need to improve quite a bit off of what we've seen here just to turn the tables and get the better of some of the same rivals who have already beat her and outfinished her.
Now we're going to move to the number 2 in here, Sakura Blossom. This one out of the Leonard Powell barn. She's been an interesting filly. Obviously, they tried her in the Arizona Oaks, and she was able to get up somehow in that race to win. It was kind of a crazy ride when you look back at it. I know it was a dirt performance. They gave her a little bit of time off. They got her back on the dirt, and she was 3rd best in that event, which I thought was a nice field. Jane Austen ended up winning that, in theory, 2nd. But the question for her will be the turf. She has 2 tries on the turf, one of which was her debut, and maybe you can excuse that. And her other turf effort at a mile, I thought it was an okay 3rd, but just an interesting spot to see her kind of regroup once again.
Yeah, just from kind of hearing you talk, we kind of feel the same about her. It's not that I really have a bunch of knocks on her in this field. I just sort of like some of the others in here better and their chances. So I would not talk you off if you have a little more reasoning than I might to like this filly, because I think she will offer you nice value. She's still a 3-year-old. She looks like she's stepping forward. She just might be better now than the last time she was on the turf. Right. So maybe we just see a more improved effort. And if you're someone who judges things off of speed figures, maybe you'll get that faster run race from her now because she's just a little bit better. She's just grown up a little bit more. It's hard for me to knock her, and I don't want to talk you off a price. I just don't really have a whole lot of reasoning myself to get behind her.
5-2 on the morning lines. The number 3, Faith Understood, as you mentioned, Gino, is cross-entered in another spot. If she does appear at Santa Anita, it's going to be her 4th start, 4th different track, and 4th different rider. But we'll take a look at her first try at stakes level competition last time out at the Big A, the mile Memories of Silver. I thought she ran very well. She was forward, and she gets caught in the end by Sweet Rebecca, but I think Sweet Rebecca is a name that people have started to take note of, and a filly that's quite nice.
Yeah, this filly makes a lot of sense in here. If she's in here, she had a good start. She opened up a length on the front end. She just got beat by that heavy favorite there, as you were pointing out. And like everything makes sense for her. She debuted on the synthetic. She was a little slow early, but you could see she showed some late energy, and then just much improved efforts in 2nd and 3rd start when she moved to the grass. So I don't really have anything negative to say about her, except for maybe the price. If she's in here, she'll probably be the favorite, I think, or definitely one of the shorter prices in here. But she's a horse that the race will go through because of her running style and because of the class. She fits very well in this spot.
And when we looked at the time form pace projections, we saw for time form USA that the 4 Sea Dancer might be part of this pace scenario as well. And we'll actually take a look at her most recent performance. You have to go back to late March to find it in this event. And, she's going to kick on quite nicely here to draw clear by 3 1/4 lengths under Kazushi Kimura. I thought it was a good performance. She tried the Sweet Life. Maybe the 6.5 didn't work out for her. And I really do think she's a horse that appreciates added ground.
Yeah, I mean, if you can just put a line through that Sweet Life and say she didn't like the downhill, she just didn't really fire on that turf course that day. The rest of her form makes a whole lot of sense, and I was very impressed with her ability to come from off the pace like that before, because we hadn't really seen her win a race like that previously. Her only other win came wire to wire. She'd kind of passed some other horses late in races, but that was a powerful kind of stalk pounce, and I think that's what she can do here. She can give you some options, is that she doesn't need to be on the lead, but she can maybe sit and make an early move in here. So I think if you're playing any type of multi exotics, she's a really fun horse to have, because I could actually see her kind of floating up a little bit and maybe being one of the horses that provides really nice value in here.
The 5 Circle of Trust, 7-2 on the morning line here for Phil D'Amato. A horse that has experience at the 1.125 distance, and several times. And when we look at her most recent performances, there's 2 horses to highlight, not just her, who finished 3rd in this grade 3 event, but the runner-up, Shiloh's Mistress, because that horse, the filly, draws in this spot from post 7. And I thought they both ran very well. I think the difference was the trip. Shiloh's Mistress was more forward in the fractions that were set. They were moderate, where you can see at least here Circle of Trust is trying to get to them and is making up some ground in the final jumps.
Yeah, she has a big gallop out as well. I get the feeling she's just a little bit quirky to ride. She's kind of just like a hard horse to keep straight, because a few of her races, she's gotten herself into some trouble. Then there have been a couple other instances, sort of like we saw there, where she was able to get out, but she almost kind of like ran up behind horses. And I think she's still really green and figuring it out. And that may mean there's a lot more upside to her, or that might mean she's still kind of got some quirks. Again, she's kind of like where I felt with Faith here, like from an opposite standpoint. I'm very, very set on her passing horses late. She's going to come running. I'm just a little concerned with some of maybe her idiosyncrasies that she's had in some of those races, where she's gotten in trouble and then she kind of run up on heels. And then there were maybe 2 times where I was expecting maybe a little bit more late punch. But I will say, Ashley, we've only been doing this maybe like a month now. You are already in the circle of trust with me. So you're in there.
We'll move on to the number 6 next in this field visually. This one out of the Librato Borosio Barn. A winner last time out in the grade 3 Senorita. It was a good performance. I thought about pulling the replay. I guess my issue with doing so, Gino, it's 6.5 on a downhill, 1.125 here on the turf course at Santa Anita. I just think it's a different ball game. And the mile races from her as of late, they haven't done enough for me.
Yeah, I mean, we saw the March 24th race where Sea Dancer beat her by 4 lengths. And Sea Dancer was coming off the pace that day. And I agree with you. It just, to me, doesn't seem like this is as much her game. The win that she had a couple starts back going a mile was one of those situations where she just got the lead. She just got out front. And I think lots of horses can win that way. I have some kind of mixed feelings with her, and a few more negative just as of late. And just that race to me between her and Sea Dancer, where Sea Dancer was just a lot better when she was a shorter price that day. Yeah, she's not going to be in the mix for me.
And on the outside, the final runner in the field, the number 7, Shiloh's Mistress, the 3-year-old daughter of Vino Rosso, who we saw just missed the last time out, her 2nd consecutive graded stakes attempt. And the big difference was she was getting onto the turf. She stretched out to 1.125 on the grass. And I thought she did everything right. Now you have to think second time going long, she can take another step forward on the grass.
Yeah, and she's one that when you go through her entire body of work, race by race, everything makes sense. A career debut at Keeneland, going 7 furlongs in one of those really tough Keeneland sprint races. Then she comes back in her next start. She stretches out a little bit more, and she's a really fine second behind Perfect Shot, who's grade 2 placed and multiple graded stakes placed. That's a really nice filly. 3rd start, she goes over to Turfway. She wins. Then she hooks a really strong group in the Santa Isabel. She's behind Where's My Ring, who's the grade 3 Gazelle winner who ran in the Kentucky Oaks. Kinza is 3 for 4 and a multiple graded stakes winner. And Following that, Shiloh's Mistress goes to the grass for the first time. She shows speed from the outside. She's kind of a step slow, but she actually gets up to the lead. And then she deals with some outside pressure from the 1-5 favorite, Maduro. She was actually headed at the top of the lane, and then she battles back. I like her a bit in this spot because I think she's got some options too. She's pretty quick. And if you read into the weekend game plan this week from Marcus Hirsch, he actually writes about this race a little bit in here too. He talks a little bit about Shiloh's Mistress and a little bit about Circle of Trust and some of the others. So there's a tease if you want some extra analysis for this weekend from Marcus. But to the outside, I think in both of the races we discussed this weekend, Ashley, at Santa Anita, the horses I'm looking for are ones that are drawn to the outside that both kind of have some options. I would like to see this one on the lead, but I would not be shocked if one or two others from the inside wanted to go. And I think Shiloh's Mistress would be fine sitting just off.
Okay, so we're gonna move to top pick time. And the question is, did you use Shiloh's Mistress on top? Based on that conversation, the answer is yes.
Yes, we have the same four, just in like strike that, reverse it order, right? Because I go 7-4, 5-3, you go 5-3, 7-4. So similar horses all towards the outside in this race. And I think you may talk to 5 different handicappers, and they may have those horses just ranked slightly different based on who they personally like. It is really that type of race, and I could see if we ran this race like 100 times based on different trips, we'd have a bunch of different winners in here. I really don't think there's a standout.
Yeah, you mentioned Shiloh's Mistress with the outside draw, showed that early foot last time out. I like that about her. I just went to Circle of Trust, and I know you talked about maybe reasons not to play her. It's either the reason not to play her, or it's the reason that you play her. Her greenness, right? Can she get the right trip that she needs? We'll see. She's going to get a new rider come Saturday out at Santa Anita, so I will use her here. I do think she's going to take another step forward, and I just like that she has a win at the 1 1/8, and last time out was her first time facing winners. So 5-3, 7-4 for me. Same horses, different order, 7-4-5-3 for Gino. It's the Honeymoon, the grade 3 event, race number 7 this Saturday out at Santa Anita. Best of luck.